The sound of soft sobbing was the last thing Mark expected
Almost
to hear
done.
when he returned to the office late that Friday evening. He had forgotten his son's medication on his desk, a critical mistake he couldn't afford as a single father of a child with asthma. But as he pushed open the door to the executive suite, searching for a light switch in the darkened hallway, he froze. There, illuminated only by the glow of a computer screen, sat Victoria Hayes, the formidable CEO of Hayes Technologies, a woman whose reputation for unshakable composure was legendary throughout the company. Her shoulders trembled as she buried her face in her hands. In that moment, Mark knew he was witnessing something few had ever seen. The decision he made next would change both their lives forever. If you're touched by what you're about to watch, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the hidden depths of human connection. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful moments that remind us we're all more alike than different. Mark Jenkins had been working at Hayes Technologies for just over a year. At 34, he was older than most mid-level project managers, having started his corporate career late after spending his 20s as a musician. Life had thrown him curveballs, a wife who decided parenthood wasn't for her and left when their son Ethan was just 2, followed by years of struggling to balance single fatherhood with making ends meet. Hayes Technologies had been his salvation, offering flexible hours and decent pay that finally allowed him to provide stability for 7-year-old Ethan. Victoria Hayes, on the other hand, seemed to have it all. At 42, she had built her tech company from the ground up, turning it into a $500 million enterprise through sheer determination and brilliant innovation. Employees both feared and admired her. She demanded excellence but rewarded it generously. The press called her the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley, not for any cruelty, but for her seemingly impenetrable composure and laser-focused approach to business. No one had ever seen Victoria flustered, much less broken down in tears. That night, Mark had two choices: quietly back away and pretend he'd seen nothing, or acknowledge the moment. Something in him couldn't walk away from another person's pain, even if that person was his intimidating boss. "Miss Hayes," he said softly. "I'm sorry to intrude. I can go." Victoria's head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise and embarrassment. She quickly wiped at her tears, straightening in her chair. "Mark. I didn't realize anyone was still here." Her voice cracked slightly as she attempted to regain her usual authority. "I just came back for my son's medication. I'll grab it and leave you in peace." Mark was already backing toward the door, feeling like an intruder. "Wait." The word was quiet but firm. Victoria took a deep breath. "Since you've already caught me at my least professional, could I ask you something personal?" Mark nodded, surprised. "Of course. You're a single parent, right? To a son?" When Mark confirmed, Victoria's professional mask slipped again. "How do you do it? Balance everything, I mean. How do you know if you're doing it right?" The question stunned him. Victoria Hayes was asking him for parenting advice? "I don't always know if I'm doing it right," he admitted honestly. "Most days I'm just trying not to mess up too badly." What followed was Victoria's quiet, shocking request: "Would you teach me how to be a parent?" Her voice trembled. "My sister and her husband died in an accident last month. Their daughter Lily is 6. I'm her only living relative, and yesterday I became her legal guardian. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm terrified of failing her." Mark stood speechless. The Iron CEO, the woman whose business decisions affected thousands of employees worldwide, was afraid of failing a 6-year-old girl. In that moment, Victoria Hayes wasn't a powerful executive, she was just a scared new parent, exactly as he had been 7 years before. "I can try," he finally said, "but I don't have all the answers either." That conversation marked the beginning of an unexpected relationship. The following Monday, Victoria surprised everyone by implementing a company-wide family-first policy, allowing greater flexibility for parents. She also assigned Mark to a special project that required them to meet weekly, though they both knew the real project was helping Victoria navigate her new role as Lily's guardian. Their meetings became a lifeline for both of them. Mark shared the practical wisdom he'd gained through years of trial and error, how to handle homework struggles, the importance of consistent bedtime routines, and tricks for getting a child to eat vegetables. Victoria, in turn, revealed vulnerabilities she had never shown anyone at work. She confessed her fear that her demanding career made her unsuitable as a parent, and her guilt over not having spent more time with her sister in recent years. "I kept postponing visits, saying I was too busy with the company," she told Mark one evening as they sat in her office, long after most employees had gone home. "Now she's gone, and I can't remember our last real conversation. What kind of person does that make me? What kind of mother figure will I be?" Mark understood her fear all too well. "Being a parent means living with constant doubt," he said. "The fact that you're worried about being good enough for Lily, that's actually a sign you probably are." As the weeks passed, their unusual friendship deepened. Mark met Lily, a solemn child with intelligent eyes who reminded him of Ethan at that age. Victoria arranged playdates for the children, and soon they were spending weekend afternoons at parks and museums together, two single parents and two children forming an unexpected found family. The company noticed the change in their CEO. Victoria remained as shrewd and decisive as ever in business matters, but a new warmth had entered her leadership style. She began asking about employees' families and implemented policies that acknowledged the humanity of her workforce. Productivity actually increased, along with employee retention. But their growing closeness didn't come without challenges. Office gossip inevitably started, with whispers that Mark was receiving special treatment. Some executives questioned Victoria's new approach, suggesting her softness would damage the company's competitive edge. And both Mark and Victoria struggled with defining their relationship. Were they friends? Mentor and mentee? Something more? The breaking point came 6 months after that fateful evening. An important client demanded a last-minute presentation that would require Mark to miss Ethan's school play, his first speaking role. At the same time, Lily had a medical scare that landed her in the hospital overnight for observation. Both Mark and Victoria were stretched to their limits, trying to balance their personal and professional responsibilities. In a heated moment, Victoria suggested that Mark prioritize the client meeting. This account could mean promotions for the entire team, she argued. Mark's disappointment was palpable. "So after everything we've talked about, the company still comes first? I thought you understood what it means to put family first." The words hung between them, sharp and accusatory. Victoria's face hardened into the mask she'd worn before Lily came into her life. "I have to think about everyone at Hayes Technologies, not just what's convenient for one employee. Even if that employee is..." She stopped herself. "Even if that employee is what?" Mark challenged. "Someone I care about," Victoria finished quietly. They parted without resolution, both hurt and confused by the collision of their personal and professional worlds. That night, alone in her home office after finally getting Lily to sleep, Victoria stared at a photograph of her sister's family. What would her sister think of how she was handling this new responsibility? The answer came with surprising clarity. Her sister would tell her to remember what matters most. Victoria had built her company from nothing. It was strong enough to bend without breaking. But the fragile trust of a child, and perhaps the trust of a good man, those were far more precious and irreplaceable. The next morning, Victoria called an emergency executive meeting. "I'm going to be at Hayes Elementary School at 2 p.m. today for a second-grade play," she announced to her stunned leadership team. "Mark Jenkins' son has a speaking role, and I promised Lily we would support her new friend. The Miller presentation will be handled by our entire executive team, myself included, tomorrow morning. They can wait 24 hours. When Mark spotted Victoria and Lily slipping into the back of the school auditorium just before the play began, his heart raced. Afterward, as Ethan basked in praise for his 3 lines as a talking tree, Victoria approached Mark. "I was wrong," she said simply. "Some lessons take longer to learn than others. The company will thrive or fail based on how we value what truly matters, and it took a single dad to show the CEO what truly matters." That moment transformed both their lives. Victoria restructured her company to truly reflect family-first values, becoming a thought leader in corporate culture and work-life balance. Mark eventually joined the executive team, bringing his unique perspective to leadership decisions. Their friendship evolved into love, built on mutual respect and the shared journey of raising their children together. Years later, when asked about the turning point in her life, Victoria would always point to that vulnerable moment when a kind man discovered her crying in her office. "I asked him to teach me how to be a parent," she would say, "but what he really taught me was how to be human." In business, we talk about return on investment. But the greatest returns in life come from investing in people, especially the smallest ones. Lily and Ethan grew up as siblings, bonded by their parents' love story. The family they created wasn't conventional, but it was built on something stronger than convention: the courage to be vulnerable, to admit when you don't have all the answers, and to put love above all else. If this story touched your heart, remember that behind every successful person is a human being with fears, doubts, and the capacity for tremendous growth. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives happen when we're at our most vulnerable, when we're brave enough to ask for help and lucky enough to find someone willing to give it. Like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the unexpected connections that change our lives forever.